Okay, so for this last part of the video, we actually now want to finish up this chapter by determining why the aggregate demand curve is going to be downward sloping. Okay, so what we've got here at this point is a Keynesian cross. We know why the Keynesian cross looks the way it does. So that much we know for certain. Well, hopefully you know. Okay, so with that said, now what we want to do is somehow we want to be able to talk about a point where we're talking about price level and real GDP. Now, you may remember that one of the assumptions about aggregate expenditures is that the price level is constant. But what would happen if we changed the price level? If you go back to the second part of these videos, we talked about price level in 3 of the cases. In terms of consumption, if prices were higher, we said that consumption would be lower because consumers would feel poor. We also said that if prices were higher in the US compared to other countries in the world, we know that net exports would fall. And then finally, we know that if prices were higher, that interest rates would have to be higher because savings would be less. And if the interest rate was higher, then we know that investment would be lower. So higher prices means lower consumption. Higher prices in the US compared to the rest of the world means net exports fall. Higher prices means that savings falls, which means that the interest rate rises, which means that investment falls. And with all that said, what we actually then do is that I can make an AE prime that reflects the fact that the AE curve changed only because prices changed. And then what we would see is that because the price level went up, that the equilibrium real GDP fell. And what I could then do is a drop-down graph. Let's say that the price rose from $1 to $3 as an overall price level in the economy. So it used to be at $1. Now it is at $3. And all we do is connect the dots. The aggregate demand curve, and this is the important part, the aggregate demand curve simply reflects all of the points of equilibrium on the Keynesian cross. So all points along the aggregate demand curve are points where there's equilibrium between real GDP and aggregate expenditures. And the most difficult chapter of this part of the course is now done. Okay, so we have one more chapter to go. I think it's easier. I think it's going to be the second most difficult for this part of the course. Okay.